Hello and welcome to everybody. I'm Andy. Today I want to introduce you the mounting options and the cabling of our DLT series with different mounting options to a forklift. Out in the fields, there are a lot of mounting brackets which fit to the former units, the V83 and the V72. But they do not fit to the new model V73 anymore because the housing changed completely. And therefore, as you see, the holes and the sizes does not match. To avoid the need to change all the mounting brackets, we created mounting adapters which cover the gap between the old and the new units. So as you can see, there are only two small tin parts which have to be mounted up front on the units with two screws which are provided in the package. Just close the screws on both sides of the unit. And then you can see that the new unit can also be mounted with old brackets. Now you can mount the bracket to the adapter plate. It's the same screw. So then it's tight. Here we go. For new installation, it's recommended to use the new mounting bracket because it fits for sure perfectly to the new unit. It's very easy to do the installation. First of all, put the screws into the mounting bracket. Place the mounting bracket on the unit and first tighten the screws loosely. And if every screw is in the thread, tighten the screws. And you're done. Here we go. For the mounting at the bar of the vehicle, it's mandatory to use the mounting plate, which is also provided by Advantech. If you don't use the mounting bracket and the mounting plate, then danger of breaking the ram mount is very high because the ram mount plate is made of aluminium. To mount the ram mount and the unit afterwards on the ram mount, we put the ram mount on the mounting plate and attach the 4 screws with a hex wrench driver. It's size 10. And after that, we can mount the unit on the ram mount. You can use the nuts, or you have to use the nuts and the washers which are provided with the mounting plate. You don't need a security option because the nuts are security nuts and are tightened by themselves. This we have to do 4 times. Okay, So now we have installed the RAM mount. After installation of the RAM mount, now we can install the unit direct on the RAM mount itself. The unit has two VESA mounts on the backside. It's VESA mount 75 and 100. We are using the VESA mount 75. To do the installation, we also need the Allen key, 5 millimeters, and the screws provided with the mounting kit. Very important with the screws is to use both washers, otherwise the screws could damage the unit from the inside because it gets too long. To do the installation, we can fit the RAM mount because it's easy to move to a comfortable position, and then we are using the unit, placing the unit on the RAM mount and doing the first screw. And right in the opposite, the second screw. So from this moment, the unit cannot fall down. Just can move it a little more comfortable. Then tighten the screws. Then put in the last bolt. From now, the unit is mounted and is easy to adjust. For use. Now when the unit is mounted on the RAM mount, we are now able to attach all the power and cable connections. To do this, we have to put the unit in a suitable position. And first of all, we have to mount the gasket, otherwise we cannot do it again afterwards. So just lay it in, and there are some needles you can put into holes of the unit, and then the gasket is positioned by itself. So now we have installed the gasket. The next thing is to mount the power connection. Therefore we take the power cable and plug it into the unit. Not to get loose, there are two screws which have to be tightened by a slot screwdriver, size 1. Otherwise, there's the danger that during operation the power plug comes out and the unit switches off immediately. So, now this is tightened and cannot get loose anymore. The next thing is we have to mount the grounding cable, which is located direct underneath the power connector. So there's also a toothed washer. It should stay between the chassis and the ring tank. We put the ring tank on the bolt. And tightened again with the nut. Okay, not too strong. The next two cables we have to attach scanner and keyboard. So we attach the USB for the keyboard and the scanner. After that, we have to mount the cable and lay it into the gasket and put on the strain relief. So this cable is dedicated for this outlet, this dedicated for this outlet, and this cable is dedicated for this outlet. You just can flip off the rubber and put the cables in and close it. For the non-used parts, you can open it and attach all the blind caps. So the gasket is sealed completely to keep the unit's IP66. After installation of the cables, we have to mount the strain relief. Therefore, we need the provided screws, the strain relief cable clip, and a 2.5 millimeter Allen key. First of all, we mount one screw on the one side of the cable, just a few turns. Then we insert the cable clip, hold it down, place another screw, take the Allen key and tighten the cable. Then the cable is tightened and also the gasket will fit. After the installation of every strain relief and the cable clips, the mounting should look like that. What we can see, each cable is held by the cable clip and is kept in position on the gasket, and also if we put the cable cover on it. One thing to mention is the grounding. There's a special chapter concerning the grounding because sometimes on different forklift we have to consider different installation of the grounding, and even on some forklifts we have to do an isolated installation of the unit. The last action now is to mount the cover plate to get the full IP rating. For mounting the cover plate, you need a 3 millimeters Allen wrench. So you just put in the two bolts into the unit and then squeeze the gasket with your fingers and just tighten the screws. There's a little bit of tension on it, but this is intentional now because of the gasket. And after closing both screws, the installation finished, and then we can adjust the unit on the ram mount to fit for the driver. Just to loosen the ram mount and put the unit like that. Tighten the screw. And now the unit is ready for use. After our installation, let's talk briefly about the connection from the unit to the forklift and the reason for that. As you can see now in the schematic, this is the standard installation. We are having a forklift which is equipped with an ignition switch. This is connected to the unit, and the unit senses about the forklift is powered up or not. We have in the grounding, which is connected to the chassis of the forklift and the chassis of the unit. And we are having a battery which drives the unit over DC-DC converter. In addition, we have in a normal way some scanners or keyboards which are mounted to the unit. In this case, the chassis of the forklift looks like to be floating, so neither connected to the plus or the minus lead of the battery. Let's talk about the considerations on the grounding. First question, why is the grounding necessary? During the movement of the vehicle and the forklift and the friction, we have static charging of the chassis of the vehicle. If the vehicle's chassis and our unit are not connected, we have a potential between the chassis, and this could lead into malfunction, mostly shown up with a malfunction of the touch screen itself, or at least a damage of the unit, or at least also a damage of the forklift's electronic. In the field outside, we are facing different preconditions of the forklifts. First of all, which is very common, is a floating chassis. This means the chassis is not connected either to the minus or to the plus pole of the forklift. The second, also very common, is a negative connected chassis to the minus pole of the battery. And very rarely, but also in the field, we have a positive connected chassis, which means that the plus connector of the battery is connected to the chassis of the forklift. And you can imagine if you connect a unit which has a negative grounded chassis to a positive connected chassis of the forklift, this leads into really big trouble. Out of the different preconditions of the forklift, there are different ways to attach the unit. First of all would be attach the green-yellow grounding cable to the vehicle's chassis. This causes the chassis of the vehicle and the chassis of the unit always having the same potential, and therefore no voltage tension. And in this case, we don't face any malfunction of the unit. The next possibility is to attach the green-yellow grounding cable to the vehicle's minus pole, either on the battery or with a short connection cable to the minus pole on the unit. This has to be done especially if from the manufacturer it's not allowed to attach anything to the floating chassis of the unit, and at least there's also the possibility to install the unit totally isolated. There are some rubber buffers, and you can see in the example picture how the mounting could look like, but also take into consideration that every external unit which is connected to the computer, like cameras, printers, scales, or anything like that, also have to be installed isolated. But be aware that the mounting and the connecting of a DLT to a forklift or another vehicle is totally different as connecting to a standard car. You must know that if you do some mistakes on the wiring and the connecting, you are having the problem that the forklift could be damaged, or even worse, could go into emergency brake and causing damage to the goods or even the operator. Therefore, if you do not know how to connect it, or if you're uncertain, please contact our service department to get support. Thanks to everybody for watching the video. See you in the next video. Bye bye.